ED,
Yo,
say it with me now. Who is Brock Purdy? Who is Brock Purdy? You're not
no, I'll
amused.
pass.
You're not. You're
I'll
not.
pass.
You're not entertained.
I'll pass. You know I'm not big on cheerleading. You know that.
This is the Believe in 49ers podcast. On Believe, he is Super Bowl champion Eric Davis. I'm Rahshaun Haylock. Plenty to get to on this show. That was my homage, my remix of Who is Swag Baby for Who is Brock Purdy, because he's the new signal caller. All of a sudden, Mr. Irrelevant is hella relevant for the 49ers now. We'll talk about him. We'll talk about his pinch hit performance coming in out of the bullpen on Sunday, and then what it's going to be like with him running the show going forward. Are there some possible candidates on the outside that we may be not looking at, maybe not thinking of, that could possibly come in now with Jimmy Garoppolo down with that season-ending injury? I don't have any liquor with me right now, but if I would, I post some out for my man Jimmy G. Y'all know how I feel about 10. So we'll get into that. I'll wax poetic a little bit about James, and we got some game balls to hand out too as well. Niners coming up with a big win over the Miami Dolphins, ending the Dolphins' 5-game winning streak and extending their own winning streak to 5 games. But as always, we like to encourage you to continue to download, subscribe, rate, and review. We're located wherever you find your podcast. If there's a like or a follow button on your particular podcast subscription service, go ahead and hit that like or follow button. Give us a like on YouTube as well. Hit us up on social media. I'm at Haylock on Twitter. He is at _Eric Davis _ and on Instagram, I am at Watch Ray Ray. He is at ED25. As always, we're brought to you by the fine folks at Bet Online. The NBA is rolling. College basketball is going. We're entering the postseason now for college football. Playoff action for the NFL is right around the corner. So whatever you got, Bet Online has you covered. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports and events, whether it's MMA, NBA, NHL, NFL, whatever it is, boxing, even golf. Whatever it is you want, BetOnline has you covered. Go ahead and head on over to the website betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure you use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV. That's how you get that 50% back, right? Use the promo code to receive your rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts. He is Super Bowl champion Eric Davis. I'm Rahshaun Haylock. Game balls. Got some game balls to hand out, ED.
Yep, it's that time. It's always a good thing because you only get those on the win, man. Mine, you want to go first?
Nah, you go. You got it.
91, Armstead. Got my game ball.
Really?
Armstead, yes. Armstead was directly responsible, making a play that led to a couple turnovers. The pressure that he put on the quarterback, hitting the quarterback, that right there, he was responsible for some errant throws that turned into turnovers, and not to mention he was responsible. His actions led to everyone's going to get on Bosa in the sacks. His actions led to Bosa being able to get some of those sacks because of the stunts he was running, because of the attention he was getting. It was allowing Bosa to get free. Not that Bosa needs a whole lot of help, but he did help him. A game ball, quiet as it's kept, coming back at that tackle position, he had a big day.
It was good to see him back out there. And you talk about Bosa's sacks. Good to see Armstead back out there. And you talk about Bosa's sacks. He had 3 of them things on Sunday and made that offense look, Niners defense really made that offense look rather pedestrian. You can look around. I've been going defense. Yeah, they had that streak going where, they hadn't, surrendered any points in the second half. This, that, or the other. Only gave up 7, though, in the second half, if I remember correctly, on Monday. But I'm not going defense, though, this time. I am going to go with Mr. Irrelevant. Brock Purdy comes in off the bench first quarter. And look, he entered the game in which the Niners were trailing at the time, right? So it wasn't like he had to come in and just kind of babysit the thing and just not mess anything up, which may be the tone for the season. We'll get into that in a bit. But he came in a situation where, you know, he had to make a couple plays and in order
Yeah.
for the Niners to go in front, and he was able to do that and perhaps a little bit more in his first real game action as an NFL football player. He has had some mop up action earlier in the season, and of course, you know, got a little bit of an extended run during the preseason. But his first regular season game against, you know, one of the leaders of the AFC East coming in at the time, a team with a 5-game winning streak, and he went in there and, you know, you lose your quarterback, your second quarterback of the year, and he went in there and you know, he engineered the offense and looked pretty damn good doing it. I mean, there's a couple things here and
Yeah.
there, but for that being his first time, I'll put it like this: I was impressed. I didn't expect that at all, and so Brock Purdy gets the game ball for me.
Okay. I'm not mad at you.
Niners win this one 33-17. They improved to 8-4 on the season. The Miami Dolphins fall to 8-4. And look, we talked about it during the week. This was a highly emotional contest. You had, you know, barbs being thrown from South Beach. You know, a couple Niners, I don't want to say had Twitter fingers, but you know, they responded via social media.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got this, you got former members of the staff now over there on Miami staff. During the game, you had Sherfield. He gave us the Bosa. River Craycraft gave us the Kittle. You know, so guys were out there. I mean, they were. It was a lot of. I don't want to say animosity, but I mean, there was a lot of competitive juices flowing out there on the football field, and that's before you even get into the head coaches, right? I mean, McDaniel saw side of Mike McDaniel I ain't seen before. Mike McDaniel saw that street side of Mike McDaniel about to come out a little bit on that sideline there a couple times.
Also, it's the first time Mike McDaniels has ever been in a position where he can actually express how he feels.
Hey, no.
Because assistant coaches don't get to do that.
Don't let these degrees and all this fool you. Like Mike McDaniel seemed as if, you know, he was about that action, boss.
He dropped all that Yale.
He kind of. I'm like, whoa, Mike, Nuck, if you buck, what, Nuck? Like Mike wanted the smoke. He definitely wanted the smoke out there on Sunday. So that was interesting. That was an interesting thing to see. So, I mean, look, here we are. Where do we start? We start with Purdy. Well, let's get into the game. Obviously, Jimmy goes down or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
We'll talk about Jimmy. We'll talk about Jimmy first. Let's get into Purdy. I mean, he comes in. Well, first Jimmy goes down, right? I mean, what's your reaction there? It didn't really seem like much at first, and then
as soon as he didn't come back out on the field, you go through some of it. Quarterback comes out. There's another series. They carted him off.
Yeah.
Okay, if you cart someone off, one or two things. It's either it's something that you're going to go in and you're going to shoot it up, and then they're going to come back out, or it's serious. So if they're going to shoot you up, if they're going to shoot you up, tape you up, get you back out there just to numb it, it's a certain amount of time. When he didn't come back, I realized he wasn't coming back. And like during the game, I tweeted that when someone was asking me what I think about Jimmy, I said, I don't think Jimmy is going to come back capable of playing today. I wasn't going to say he wasn't going to be back out on the sideline or anything like that, but I was like, I don't think he was scared. I knew then when he didn't come back out after getting carted off. He didn't jog off. They carted him off. So something's wrong. And if you don't come right back out after, a series or whatever, because they're going to try to get you out there as fast as they can if they know you're coming back out. They don't want to go with the backup quarterback. Then that was the case. So that's what I thought. I knew he was injured. I didn't know to what degree. I knew he wasn't finishing the game. That I was pretty confident about. Then you figure out, so, and like everybody else, I didn't know what had happened until the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting, right? I mean, you see the pictures from him on the sideline. It's like, okay, he's in some pain, and then all of a sudden he's getting carted off, and you're like, okay, whoa, this is kind of serious here, right? And then Purdy comes in to start the next series,
Yep.
because it was a third down play, right, where Jimmy got hurt, and he was able to get off under his own strength, for the most part, and so you didn't really realize it wasn't like this exaggerated thing or this delay in the game or anything like that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So that was the whole interesting point. But then you look at the replay and you're like, oh yeah, that didn't look very very good. So Brock Purdy comes in. I mean, what were your first impressions of the guy? It's interesting, right? I mean, you've been the narrative at the beginning of the season from a certain section of the faithful was, why are we even playing 10? Let's just put Purdy in just to see, what he's got, right? Let's see what the backup has, right? That logic, which I found to be interesting in itself. But I mean, he came in, he got his shot. I mean, what did you think about how he handled the situation?
Well, first of all, first time a backup has had to play this year because Jimmy's not a backup. Um, so you were fortunate you had two starters. So now you're going to see what Kyle is going to do with his backup. He's had problems with backups in the past, as we know. So now we need to see what he's going to do. So now, as far as Purdy goes, um, and I was hearing all of this after the game, like, yeah, you know what? That's why you don't need Jimmy, and that's why you this, and we can do this, and we can do that. And I'm like, let's just pump the brakes. This was the absolute perfect week for Purdy to come out onto the field. Reason being, he's a scout team quarterback. He spends all week running the other team's offense. The other team's offense is his offense. So this any other time he would have gone in and he really wouldn't have had a feel for the game plan or the playbook or what was happening. And you would have had to just kind of just wing it, kind of like when 10 was thrown in, when when 10 was thrown in the game, when
Against Seattle, when Trey
five,
went down, yeah.
yeah, when Trey went down, because it was like a different game plan. But this week, Purdy got to come in after hearing his own verbiage and calling his own plays and having his own read. So to get out there on the field, I'm sure he was much more comfortable. So now, with that being said, I like that because I think we got a chance to get a genuine look at him on what he can do, what he can't do. How can he play? How can they run the offense with him in there? And it was what I expected it to be. I don't think it changes much. It's going to be a run-heavy, defensive-led team. That's what they did. He pretty much played the whole game. You were able to win the game that way. You're gonna ride on this defense, and you're gonna allow him to make some plays. Now, I know there were a lot of people excited. I saw it. I read it. I've been hearing it. A lot of people excited about those tight window throws and him putting the ball there and all this type of stuff. I'm like, people, those are going to be interceptions.
Yeah, no, some of those are dangerous passes.
Just know that those are going to be interceptions. So if he continues to throw the ball in the windows that small, they will be interceptions. Yes, it worked. Great play. I get it. Just be prepared for that. Know that making those throws, there's a reason why you don't see a lot of throws like that by quarterbacks, because they get intercepted, and it's going to happen. But again, as I said, what I saw coming into a week where he had a chance to run the offense is that he's capable of running the offense. Don't put him in, you don't have to put him in position to be the guy to win the game. You just need the quarterback position to make some plays. That's the way the team is built. So I want to see these next couple of games to see where they are. That's what I'm looking for. These next couple of games to see where they are and see what happens.
Yeah, so this whole thing happens, right? And you hear the news, and the first reaction is like, well, damn, Jimmy's done. Like, automatically, you feel like the season is over, and And so I don't know that I feel that way. I don't know that it's over. Also don't know that it's not over either. And kind of for the same reasons that you mentioned, right? In terms of, it's one thing to be the guy all week and knowing you're going to be the starter. It's a whole other guy when it's a whole other thing when you don't have time to think about it and all of a sudden like, hey, 13, get in there. You don't really have much time to think about it. You just go out there and you just make plays. Now, to his credit, he did that pretty much for the duration of the game, right? But now you got a whole week. There's some film out on you now. Like, I don't think there's a ton of film out there on Mr. Irrelevant for, opposing defenses, to look at. Now the film's out there, right? When Tampa comes to town, the next opponents on the schedule, they're going to have some film on number 13, Brock Purdy. And then there's the other part, the other side to this, right? And we've talked about this a lot here on this pod in particular in terms of, our wins and losses. Are wins a quarterback stat? Should they be a quarterback stat? This, that, or the other. And you look at the wins.
Yes.
You look at Kyle with Jimmy. You look at Kyle without, right? And so, without Jimmy, he's something like 9-29, right? With Jimmy, well over 500. You're looking at like a 70% clip, right? High 60% clip in terms of winning percentage. And so now it's like, okay, but then you look at that section of time or who the quarterbacks were when Jimmy wasn't in there. You're talking about guys like CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins and things of that nature. And so obviously not, your prototypical guys, but whose fault is that, right?
Well, but you know what? Those are the guys that they brought to the team.
Yeah, that's Kyle's fault. Exactly.
It's no different. It's no different than Purdy. You drafted Purdy.
Exactly.
And you drafted Purdy. You put him on the roster. You put him in position to be the backup. So you have to expect him to play. There's no one on your roster should be a liability. And if so, that's on the coach and the GM. Then they need to be moved. If a guy can't play, he shouldn't be on your team. If he can't handle the position, he shouldn't be on your team. So that and let you get back to it. That's why I stated it was the perfect week for Purdy to come in because you got an opportunity to actually see and not have to throw it out like, well, if he understood what was going on, if he had more time, like, no, you've been listening all week long. That's a game plan. All week long, you've been going through like this is what it's going to sound like. This is what we're going to do. This is where you should be reading it. It's all the stuff that he had to step in his own huddle and do. So, and we saw him do it, successfully. He won the game. So I expect him to be able to run the offense because I already see it. And now jump back on yours because I got one more thing to say after that, but you go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean the whole thought about that is kind of what you just said, right? Like whose fault is that, right? Like that's Kyle's fault, right? The guys on the roster, they weren't capable of doing, anything and when their number was called. And so now Brock Purdy gets this opportunity, and where does he fall? Like, is he going to be the outlier, or is he going to be like the other guys? And so I think that's a huge question, and that question largely will determine how much success this team is going to have this season. And so, is it over? I don't know. I don't know if it's over. I know I felt really good when 10 was back there. I don't know what that looks like now going forward with 13. I mean, it's a difference between this being and when I say season over, I'm talking 6. I'm not talking playoffs. I'm not talking NFC Championship. I'm talking about the opportunity, the ability, the chance to potentially take 6. That's where I am, right? Like, is this team a playoff team? Sure, they could still be a playoff team with Purdy.
There we go.
My notion, I don't care about the playoffs.
You have to care about the playoffs because you can't win a championship if you don't make playoffs.
Yeah, but when I say I don't care about the playoffs, my whole thought process, like just getting to the playoffs that's not a win for me.
Well, you can be disappointed there. I know what you're saying.
You understand what I'm saying?
But you have to get there to have an opportunity to win it. And
100%. 100%.
But if you get there, anything can happen. You just got to get there. Once you get there, you don't necessarily have to be the best team. There's no way I believe the Rams were the best team. The Matthew Stafford that you saw this year was pretty much the Matthew Stafford you saw last year, except the only difference, he led the league in interceptions last year. The only difference, drop picks matter. He would have been viewed completely different if you catch that. But guess what? A pick was dropped. You end up winning the Super Bowl because of it when you shouldn't have. So you got to get, anything can happen once you get there. And I think that they can still get there. See, I look at it with Brock Purdy. I look at it no differently than I looked at it with Trey Lance starting the season. I said I think they're a double-digit win team. They can make the playoffs. If you made me at that time say, can they win the Super Bowl? I'd say no. But since you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. It's just a question of what vibe you have going, how is your team performing at that time, who you end up playing against. Because remember, other teams can have injuries. Other teams can lose key players. Other teams can have, like Tua. Tua was shook. Tua had a bad day. It's going to happen with players. Tua is a really, really good player. He's been playing well all season long. He had a bad day against a good team. And if you have a bad day against a good team, it's going to get ugly. And that's what happened. So that's all I say about it. It's his backup. It's his choice. Purdy is his choice that he put out there. But I think we're in the same situation right now that we would have been in with Trey Lance. The only difference is that Purdy comes in and he's got a cushion. They're what, 8-4, right?
Yeah,
is that their record?
Yeah, they're 8-4 right now. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Purdy comes in. Purdy comes in. If they win 2 games, he's in the playoffs. There's no pressure on him. Not right now. Not yet. It's coming. But you were talking about that earlier.
But that's kind of the point, though, right? Like the pressure's coming, right?
But it's not there yet, because remember, guess what you just started off by calling him. And what did you do? You gave him the Purdy chant, Mr. Irrelevant. Everybody's happy. No, he will not have the same pressure on him that Trey Lance would have had. Why? Because they know he's not the starter. No, everyone is hoping to see if he can be a solid backup. There's no pressure on him. There is no Purdy versus Jimmy G. He is not the enemy of Jimmy G. He's not the enemy of Trey Lance. Nobody is going to pick a side when it comes to him. And if he stinks, guess what? He's Mr. Irrelevant. He's not supposed to get it done.
Yeah, but I don't think any of that matters once playoff season comes around.
But I'm just talking about what I'm talking about.
The competitive juices, the competitive nature, the chance to win a championship, like that comes with some natural pressure, right?
But we're talking about getting there first. Let's get there. Once you get there, like I said, that's why I said pressure's coming. Right now, you haven't made the playoffs, so you got to win some games. And I'm saying he gets to start off. He has a cushion that Trey Lance didn't have. Trey Lance started 0-0 in position where I got to find a way to win 10, 11 games. This guy has 8 wins. He's got 8 wins right now going into his first start. Yes, he helped get one of those, but he's got 8 wins already going into his very first start, where he's got to think about it like, what do I do from this point on?
It's interesting that you say that, because I was thinking about this last night, right? And given the situation, like in a weird way, I almost feel like I don't know what this thing is going to be or what this could be. With these next 8+ weeks are going, how they're going to unfold for this organization, and with Brock Purdy, hopefully at quarterback. But given the situation, given a chance, if that were even to be, purely hypotheticals here, but I almost feel a little bit better now with Purdy at this point than I felt with Lance at the beginning of the season. And
again, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Some of it is what you mentioned. Like, you bring up a good point with the cushion, right? Obviously, he's 8-4. Yeah. The team's 8-4 now. Trey Lance started season 0-0. But there's another part of me, and I've been saying this. Like I didn't think Trey Lance should see the field this season. I was a huge proponent of that. I know we thought differently about that, but my whole thing was the guy didn't play, right? Like Purdy's a guy who played 4 years. Like
Yeah,
he's got enough. He had enough reps, enough snaps under center, this, that, or the other at the college level. I
college
understand that,
reps, they
but
don't matter. They don't
but
matter.
it
They don't matter.
translates. It
No, it
translates.
doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
It translates.
Peyton Manning, I'll give you a perfect example. Peyton Manning was tremendous in college. He was
He was.
tremendous in college. Peyton Manning sucked as a rookie.
He sucked as a rookie. Yeah.
He sucked because it doesn't translate. Peyton Manning then, by playing, became Peyton Manning. Arguably one of, when we start talking about best quarterbacks ever, you got to put him in the conversation. Peyton Manning became that guy because it does not translate. It's a completely different game.
Yeah, but
so the only way Trey Lance is going to...
There's a learning curve there, though, right?
Yeah, well, there's a learning curve, and the only way you're going to get better is to play. You have to play.
Exactly. And
you
so
have to play.
And that's why
you have to play on the field in the NFL.
But that's why I feel like Trey was even further behind because he didn't even play in college. It's almost like skipping a grade, in a sense.
But the part that you're discounting is talent level. A talented player is going to catch on faster because he has skills to do things that other guys can't. Even when plays break down, it's the, like I said, the guy Justin Fields. You see him last week. Justin Fields is doing the things that they're hoping Trey Lance will be able to do, where a play breaks down and he takes off running for 25 yards, or you design a run for him and he runs for 70. But
he also had that reps underneath him at Georgia and at Ohio State.
I get what you're saying, but the kid played enough. He played enough. A lot of guys will sit here and say, well, he only played so many games. Well, he guess what? He won all of them. He won all of them. So you know what? You played 10 games, you won 10. You played 17 games, you won 17. I'm going to kind of think if you played 18, you probably would have won 18, 19, and 20. So I'm not going to punish you for what you didn't do. I'm going to see if you can continue to grow and progress and make plays. So that's why I was like, he should be on the field. So I don't think, again, what I said before, I don't think that many people are wrong when you're drafted that highly. When you are, and like I said, if you are a top 5, top 10 pick, you could have been the number 1 pick. That many people ain't wrong.
Oh no, people are wrong all the time. They're wrong all the time.
The whole league is not wrong. No, now circumstances, situations, schemes, all of those type things you can be wrong about. But talent level, physical ability, they're not wrong. That many people are not wrong to say that you have the physical traits to get it done. Doesn't mean you're gonna get it done. Doesn't mean schemes matter. Ask Russell Wilson. He's playing in a completely different scheme than he's ever played in his entire career, and he does not look good. We've seen it happen for all types of guys. I mean, you remember Nnamdi?
Yeah.
Nnamdi Asomugha was incredible. I mean, he was a perennial All-Pro. He switched schemes, and he was a dude.
D'Angelo Hall, that's another one for you. Yeah.
Just a dude. Yeah. Because everybody can't play in every scheme. So that's a part of it. But now we're just talking about talent levels. So at the beginning of the season, yes, I thought Trey Lance could play, but like I said, I thought they'd be a double-digit win team. I was like, okay, I don't think that this is a team that right now I'm saying is, and I said it, they're not a Super Bowl contender, but I think they can make the playoffs, and then we'll assess things as they go through. I got to see him play. How does he perform? How does he grow as a player? I'm there with Purdy. Now, this is the first time you're backup because Trey Lance wasn't a backup. Jimmy Garoppolo's not a backup. Now you got a backup. Purdy's a backup. He's a backup talent. All of this type thing. Again, the entire league is not wrong. It's rare that they are wrong. about that guy. Now, people are like, he's going to end up being the franchise quarterback. Well, if he is, it's going to be some other people running the franchise. But, it's rare. It's rare that there's a Tom Brady that sneaks by. That's why he's Tom Brady. So like the league was wrong about him. There ain't a whole lot of other quarterbacks you go look at, not at that position, where you're going to say the league was wrong, where a guy was drafted, late and he became that dude. So Purdy, can you come in? Can you perform? I get what you're saying. He's had the college experience. He's played well. He played a lot of games. Guess what? He played so many games in college, and people got so many opportunities to evaluate him that they made him Mr. Irrelevant. I'm just trying to point that out to you. Now, doesn't mean that he can't be a solid backup, run the offense, and understand his role within the offense. This team, you've played long enough. That's why it's a good time for him and why you should feel more comfortable with him right now, Purdy, that is, as opposed to Trey Lance at the beginning. At the beginning, you didn't know what the offense was going to be. You didn't know what Trey Lance was going to be. You didn't know what the defense was going to be. You didn't know the personality of the team. We now know at 8-4 the personality of this team. This is a defensive-minded football team. Defense is going to lead them as far as they go. That's what this is about. That's this team. Everything else, every other element and aspect of this team should be in service of the defense at this point. It's the elite part of the team. So your offense should be designed to complement your defense, your special teams. The plays that they run, the things that they do should be in complement to the defense. That's how it should work. You understand that you should not put them in bad situations. The coaching decisions should be to put the defense in the best situation. That's the personality of this team. This team is not, I'll say it again, said it last week. You may score 45 points in one of these games, but you're not a 45-point a game team. You are a team that, you're expecting your defense to give up 21 or less. So you need to get 24 points. Find some kind of way to manufacture that. And if you put your defense in a good situation, then you can do what you did this last game. Because this was a close game. The score doesn't say it, but you continue to put your defense in a position to where they could do what they did. Then that's where they are, and that's where Purdy is. So because you already know the personality of the team, he's got an 8-game cushion. I think he should be really comfortable, and I think they should still be looking to win the division now. You should still be in position to win this division. The Rams are done. The Cardinals can't beat you. Seattle's
going to have something to say about that,
Seattle. We said that the entire time that Seattle is going to be the one. I've been saying it the whole time. A lot of people have been counting them out, but I'm just like, because again, it's a situation. Pete knows that team. That team knows who they are. They know how they win, and that's what I think the Niners are. Remember our last pod? I said I was interested in this one because I think they know how to win now. They know who they are. I think the Niners will be fine because they know who they are. They're not going to freak out because there's a change at the quarterback position, because this is not a quarterback-driven team this year. It's not. It's simply not. So that wasn't going to be the make or break point for them moving forward regardless. It wasn't.
I won't say make or break, but I think it, from a goals standpoint, it appeared, or at least it seemed, with 10 in there, the goalpost changed, right? Which would going into the season would, at least what I was thinking, was a team that could compete, hopefully make the playoffs. Once 10 came in there, it was like, okay, this is now a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, because you had experience at the quarterback.
Because you had experience at that position, right? Which is a key position, right?
Yeah.
And so now I don't know where I don't know where this organization I don't know where this
But no,
organization.
but listen to what I was just saying. Okay, so even think about with 10 in there. You felt like this was a Super Bowl contender. And everybody around the league was saying that about it being a Super Bowl contender. Was 10 doing anything throughout the season that Purdy wasn't doing yesterday? Was 10 being asked to do anything that Purdy wasn't doing yesterday? Think about it.
No, you could argue Purdy was asked to do more. Honestly,
See,
30
so
those
see,
37 attempts. Whoo, we have to talk about that on the
so
next
this is
pod.
yeah. See, there you go. I told you and your 30 attempts, they can't win. Now with that, and I told you that means absolutely nothing. It just depends on the flow of the game. Now, see, so that's my point. So there's this perception that 10 and his experience, now you can win a Super Bowl. And that's everybody in the league. And now everybody's like, oh, there's no way they can do it because it's never been done with a rookie quarterback and all these type of things. But what I'm looking at it and I'm saying, look, the team knows who they are. It was not a quarterback driven team. This team it had nothing. This team is about, I told Christian McCaffrey, you needed him. You needed somebody that could actually run Kyle's system. They got that now, and which will open up things for Debo, which will open up things for Ayuk. You know, you got two receivers that you got to deal with. Okay, you better pay attention to Jennings. And guess what? At some point, Kittle's going to come alive because somebody's going to say, "Oh, we're going to leave him open because he's not doing anything," and he's going to eat somebody up. When you know, and there will be an important time where they're going to be like, okay, they're going to forget about 85 because they're going to be worried about the other guys, and he is going to eat somebody up. He's going to have a huge game in an important time, and it's going to pull them through when they really need it. But see that's the thing. That's why I want to see how he's going to play. He came in, but Purdy, and as you know, started off, Purdy stepped on the field. Perfect week. Hate that this happened to Jimmy, but Purdy had an opportunity to run Miami's offense, call the plays. It's all the same. So he was kind of ready for this week, almost like he was getting the backup reps. You know what I mean? And actually, like he was getting the starting reps because he was running scout team. So he was getting, you know, all the reps. And he was able to run the offense and he stepped out there and he played well. I want to see if he can continue to do that.
Yeah.
And the way he played, it wasn't like I said, they're not going to ask him to be Patrick Mahomes. They're going to ask him to hand the ball off, throw screens on the third, every now and then, fit it in on third down.
Yeah.
Don't screw it up for the defense. Don't turn it over so you don't screw up your defense. And if he does that, dude, the guys that they got coming up, I mean, that's it. He put two in the end zone, and then let another one for a field goal, right?
Yeah.
That's enough to beat Tampa. Tampa can't score.
Yeah, speaking of which, they got Tampa coming up on a short week at home, in which Tampa got to fly all the way across the country. We'll talk about that later in the week. We'll see. We'll see. Next week is obviously going to look a whole lot different than it did Sunday for Purdy. I want to see the bounce back. I want to see next week. I want to see the week after. You know, before I can really put an assessment on this thing.
Yeah, next week is all I need.
I got to see him running back.
Yeah.
It won't. Next week would be huge, but I want to see it. I like to see it again too. Also, look, the Jimmy Garoppolo went down with the injury. We'll talk about that on the other side of the break. First, this from the fine folks over at Butcher Box. All right, ED. Jimmy G. It's the end of an era. I think we can say that confidently this time. By the way, this is the Believe in 49ers podcast on Believe. He is Super Bowl champion Eric Davis. I'm Rahshaun Haylock. It's funny, the whole time he's been getting just creamed because he can't throw a rail shot. his last completion as a Niner was a real shot. It was right up the. It was a whole shot. It was right up the on the little wheel route to McCaffrey, and then that was that. Look, this absolutely. Well, for me, I mean, this sucks. I know we talked about this in the off season, and I said something to the term of like, damn, like Jimmy didn't deserve this, whatever. He's like, and you said something like Jimmy Jimmy didn't deserve it, or how is Jimmy not deserving it more than the other guys on the team, or something along those lines. And
Yeah,
it's not
football.
necessarily
I told football is not about deserves, man. I told you a
yeah,
long time
and
ago.
it's
Not about
not
deserves.
it's not even necessarily about that or like the other guys on the team. But it's just so interesting how this thing played out, right? Like, I mean, the stage was set um for 10 to have this this opportunity, and just kind of
Hmm.
like right off in the sunset.
Yeah,
But life isn't a Disney movie, right? We don't always get our happy endings.
this is true.
But in sports, I mean, I root for great stories. Like, I'm unashamed about that, especially when
The story will still be great. It just won't have Jimmy as the
yeah,
main character.
it'll be Mr. Relevant now.
Yeah,
Instead of that,
yeah.
which is something I get behind.
That's football, man. People may think I'm cold, but like I said, nobody felt sorry for me when they were scraping my shoulder up off the candlestick turf. Yeah, it's just part of it. I mean, you know what people will say? Oh, that's not right, and this blah 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 and all this stuff. Nobody's even talking about Jason Verrett right now, are they?
They're not.
No, you don't even mention his name. They don't even think about it. He hasn't crossed anybody's mind. I guarantee you, not one Niner fan, not a single Niner fan that's not in his family has thought about him, and at all this week. So that's what I mean about the sport. And so with Jimmy,
It's a cold game. It's a
it's a
cold game.
dangerous profession. Injuries happen. I know, like you said, it's not a Disney movie, and you want to write the story. Jimmy is one of those guys that, and I never go with injury prone and all of this type stuff and blah blah blah, because football players get hurt, but Jimmy's just one of those guys. It happens. It happens, and it's not like and everyone was talking. Somebody even tweeted me saying, "Well, you know what? He should have thrown the ball away. He should have done this, and you know what? It's his fault he got hurt." And I was like, "Okay, so you're gonna blame him for not blocking?"
For
I
yeah,
was like, you go blame him
or
for not blocking
miscommunication
and for
on
trying to make a play. So that it's his fault that he didn't pick up the lineman. Like when he got hurt the first time, I was like, it was his fault. They were like, he's injury prone. It was his fault that a lineman got rolled up on him. That's his fault. So I mean, these things, it's happening to him. Nothing he can do about it. The only one I say was his fault, where he tried to run into old boy and show he was tough when he hurt his knee the first time.
yeah. Oh yeah, he tried to lower his
That was
shoulder.
his fault.
Yeah, that was
That was just slide or step out of bounds. That was his fault. There was no reason for him to take that hit. But I know you all sympathetic, and this happens and
It was
all
a
this
rough
stuff.
night,
And
ED. It was a rough night. It was.
and you know how I am. You know how I am about JV, and I'm just like, because I know he knows. It's like you just gotta roll with it. Nobody's out there trying to get hurt, but football players are gonna get hurt, and it wasn't meant to be for Jimmy. Regardless, I thought the season he was gonna move on. I know there was talk before this game that he'd possibly come back. That wasn't going to be the case,
No,
because
I mean,
a healthy Jimmy, somebody was going to offer him a starting job.
yeah. And
So
which I still think that's going to happen. I mean, I think he should be well and healed enough where that shouldn't be an issue this offseason like the shoulder was last offseason, that will prevent him from getting any sort of deal, or a starter's deal out there, going into someone's cap next year. So how do we write this final chapter of Jimmy in the colors? How do we write the story on Jimmy in the colors?
again, Jimmy's going to be underappreciated, because he came back in again and he did what the entire offseason. What was I say? Keep Jimmy on the team.
You said that.
You and I, we went back. You were getting like,
I said he should have been
let him go.
Should
He
have
should
been
have been. I
gone.
was like, keep him on the team, because if anything happens, you have a solid starter. You know you got somebody that can run the offense and, more importantly, win games. If not for Jimmy, say what you want to say, there is no way they'd be 8-4 right now. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And everybody will say, oh, well, it's all about the defense, and the defense did this and blah, 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 and all this stuff. Okay. But he was under center. I don't think it would have happened because there are a lot of other things that you got to take into account. The ball being turned over, situations not being handled. You see how many timeouts they had to use this last game just from getting plays out and clock management and understanding the flow of the game. All of these little things that you take for granted when you have a quarterback that's used to doing it. And the players are accustomed to his mannerisms and everything else. It makes a difference. And there's no way they'd be 8-4 right now. So I think he should be appreciated for that. He's not going to be. Problem is that you didn't deliver a Super Bowl. You had your opportunities. And that's the same way people feel about Cap, that you got there and you didn't deliver it. So your shortcomings will be what people pay more attention to, as opposed to the games that he won, the situation that he put the team in. I said it before. I'm going to say it once again. This organization is now looking to and contending for championships because of Jimmy.
Yeah.
Jimmy changed the mindset of that locker room. It was a bunch of losing. It was all over the walls. It had seeped into the carpet. It was in the air, had permeated the air. Losing was in the building until he stepped in. And if for nothing else, if you're a 49er fan, you should appreciate him for that. You can say it wasn't all him. You can say you can say what that he couldn't play and other guys are better and blah blah blah. But the dude changed how things were done. He changed the culture in there. And don't give me it was Kyle, because Kyle was losing without him. Kyle was losing without him. Jimmy came from a winning organization and showed these dudes how to win. Period.
Yeah, well said. Well said. And I think for me, he re-raised the bar, right? He got the colors back into the championship discussion.
Respectability, right? Where it belongs. Yes.
Yeah. It was a lot of bad football being played.
People forget. Bro, it's funny. People forget how bad it was like 5-6 years ago. People forget. Yeah. It's amazing.
I remember a Christmas Eve game. They were playing the Rams in the Coliseum, and we all went to the game as a family. And just how excited everybody was to win that game, right? And even though it cost probably the number 1 overall draft pick, like it still was only like the second win of the season or something like that. Like,
yeah, I remember that game. I was there. I remember that game.
And so So Jimmy is certainly re-raised the bar, got the colors back to a level of respectability, got the colors back in a Super Bowl, got them back playing on championship weekend. I think for me, the thing that sticks out to me, and we talked about this a little bit in the last segment, and it's what is Kyle going to ask Purdy to do that he hadn't asked Jimmy to do, right? And the answer is probably nothing, right? But I think for Jimmy, it goes beyond that. And for me, I think the overwhelming thing is like when everyone counted him out, no one believed in him, his teammates did, right?
Yeah.
I think there's this overwhelming belief that his teammates had in him, that helped propel them along to this run. Would this team be 8-4 without Jimmy right now? I agree with you. I don't think they would. Would they be a Super Bowl contender without Jimmy right now? I don't think that they would be. I think Trey going down was great for Trey, in my opinion, because I think it gives him just a little bit more time. But I also think it kind of in a way it sort of it changed the mind frame of the entire team, right?
Yes.
I think it reignited them in a sense like, oh well, we was right there last year, and now this
Yeah.
dude is back. Let's just
Mm-hmm.
go and just win the damn thing this year. I think the mind frame switched to that, and so let's see. We'll see where they go from there. But yeah, I mean, see, Jimmy gets carted off the
Yeah.
field his last time as a Niner. That's football, man. It's the way it
Well,
goes,
that's
man.
football, but yeah,
It
you
can
know
be,
what?
it can be
I just
cruel,
thought,
man.
yeah, I just thought of something when you were talking about that. When you were talking about the confidence that he brought into the locker room, to the guys, the confidence they showed in him. But before we started this, I was telling you this is about Jimmy. Jimmy doesn't lack confidence.
You know,
Jimmy, that's what I'm saying. He's a winner. He's a winner. He expects to win. It's not like he's hoping and praying and trying to talk himself into it. And guys feed off of that. And the one thing, and I just thought about that when I was saying, what Jimmy is doing and what Kyle is going to ask him. When you said that again, I thought about it. I said, I know one thing Kyle is not going to ask Purdy to do. He is not, nor is he going to expect it from him. He's not going to expect him to be the leader that Jimmy was.
yeah.
He's not going to expect him to put that weight on his shoulders to try and lift guys up and keep guys confident and all those. He's not going to do that because he doesn't expect him to be that person right now. And that's the thing that will be missing moving forward. That's the thing that those guys, that Trey has to develop, and Purdy will have to rely on. He will have to rely on Debo and Ayuk and Trent and Christian McCaffrey. He will have to rely on Kittle. He will have to rely on Bosa and Fred. He's gonna have to rely on those guys being those type of people to bring that along. Because if you put that on him, now that's a problem. I don't expect Purdy to come in and all of a sudden lead everybody to the promised land. Those guys know now that they lost their quarterback. They got to know that they got a backup playing, and you got to do your part. You can't carry him, but this is what I've always said, and I always knew when somebody went down. People always like, you got to elevate everything. You got to lift it up. Like, no, I just got to do my job. I just know that today I can't screw up.
Less margin for error.
That's I'm trying to be perfect every day. I know there's no such thing as a perfect game. I'm going to try to get close today. That's how all the other players have to be in that huddle, and everybody on defense. That's what happens to the other 21. That's what happens. Okay, we got to pick it up. So I don't think that's the one. So I don't think Kyle's gonna ask him to be that guy.
I mean,
because he can't.
Yeah, you can. And look, some things are just unquantifiable, right? And I've been around enough teams and on enough teams and been around it enough. And obviously you did it at the highest level. It isn't always the stuff that numbers don't always tell the story, right? And you and I big Laker guys. And I remember what was that? The 06, 07 season, I want to say, when Lakers got back to the playoffs after those first two lean years after they traded Shaq. And this was the Smush Parker era.
Ooh. Ooh.
And but Luke Walton, of all people, went down with an injury. And you look at Luke's numbers that year, and I mean, he wasn't getting buckets. He wasn't wowing anybody with his play on the floor. But while he was on the floor, the things that he did just made everything run smoother, right? And he was down with that injury, stuff just didn't run as well, and they struggled a bit until he was able to rehab and get back, and they ended up making it to the playoffs that season. They got bounced in the first round, but it was the beginning of that next run for them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it isn't always the stuff that you can put a number on. So yeah. Shout out to Diamador Lenore. His teammate Keyshawn Nixon is in the league also. They both got interceptions on the same day.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of happy Salesian high school people were happy about that. Saw that going off on Twitter. So shout out to him doing his thing in the colors. Look, it's gonna be a short week and a long trip for the Bucks. So the Niners got to get ready for that. We'll have a preview for that coming up later this week. But the Niners improving to 8-4, so they just trying to keep this thing going. And now a new chapter in what has been an incredible 2022 season.
Haven't it?
13, step on up. It's now Brock Purdy time. Feel free to continue to give us a like on YouTube. Give us a like or a follow on whatever your podcast subscription service is. Hit us up on social media. I'm at Haylock on Twitter. He is at _Eric Davis _ and on Instagram I am at Watch Ray Ray. He is at ED25. So from a partner, Super Bowl champion Eric Davis, I'm Rahshaun Haylock. This has been the Believe in 49ers podcast on Believe. We'll see y'all later.
Peace.